Hello and welcome to my session, How to Avoid a Nightmare Before Christmas, Azure Disaster Recovery for the Holidays. My name is Mert and I have been an Azure MVP for 3 years. Please feel free to reach me out on my social media accounts and ask any questions about Azure. Let's start with some common misunderstandings about cloud computing. High availability and resilience are two different concepts in the context of computing. High availability refers to a system's ability to remain operational even when some of its components fail. It is achieved through redundancy and failover mechanism that ensure that the system can continue to function even if some of its components fail. Resilience, on the other hand, refers to a system's ability to recover from failures and continue to operate normally. It is achieved through mechanisms such as backups, disaster recovery, and fault tolerance. In summary, high availability is about preventing failures from occurring, while resilience is about recovering from failures when they occur. Both concepts are important for ensuring that critical systems remain operational and available to users. Cloud providers are not solely responsible for resilience and high availability. When cloud providers have a responsibility to ensure the reliability of their cloud infrastructure, customers also have a role to play in ensuring reliability of their applications. Cloud is actually a data center, a rack, a server, which means there can be failures. Let's have a look at the key concepts. Recovery time objective and recovery point objective are two key indicators for disaster recovery planning. RTO refers to the maximum duration of downtime that can be tolerated after a failure, while RPO refers to the maximum amount of data loss that can be accepted. These metrics help you determine the optimal level of backup and restoration for your system. Okay, we don't need to worry about anything. We're in the cloud and 99% SLA. That means we are safe from any disasters, right? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? It is not like there are bugs out there who wants to assimilate our data and apps, or zombies who want to eat our brains, or meteors that will smash our data center. Those are just silly scenarios from movies and games. We are living in a real world and things are boring and predictable. Alright, let's not get too carried away. Nature can throw a curveball at us at any time and we have no control over it. And even if everything is calm, the power might be go out and backup system might not kick in right away. What then? Let's keep it simple and think what can we do if we lose access to the data center and our resources. You can try to create new resources with Azure Portal, or you would prefer Azure CLI, which would be faster than Next's create. You might have the best DevOps team in the world and you can run your pipelines and let them create everything for you. At the end, you can restore from backup and done. Everything is up and running. John has a question for you. You can do that stuff and restore everything, but what about RPO and RTO? Let's go back to the key concepts. Azure region, availability set, and availability zone are different concepts that affect the availability and scalability of your applications in Azure. Azure region is a geographical area that contains one or more data centers. Each region has a unique name and code, such as UK South and West Europe. You can choose an Azure region based on your business needs, such as latency, compliance, or cost. Azure offers more than 60 regions around the world. Availability set is a logical grouping of virtual machines that are deployed in the same physical location within an Azure region. An availability set ensures that your VMs are not affected by hardware failures or updates in the same fault domain or update domain. A fault domain is a group of servers that share the same power, cooling, and network infrastructure, and it helps to protect your workloads from hardware failures or power outages that may affect a single rack of server in a data center. An update domain is a logical grouping of Azure resources that can undergo maintenance or be rebooted at the same time. Availability zone is a physical isolated location within an Azure region that has its own power, cooling, and network infrastructure. An availability zone provides high availability and fault tolerance for your VMs, by reducing the impact of the hardware failures or updates in one zone. To summarize, an Azure region is a geographical area that contains one or more data centers. An availability set is a logical grouping of VMs within the same physical location within an Azure region, and an availability zone is a physical isolated location within an Azure region that provides high availability and fault tolerance for your VMs. Let's talk about Azure region pairs. Azure region pairs are the pair of regions that are geographically separate from each other, but are paired together to provide disaster recovery capabilities. In the event of a disaster, you can fail over to applications and data from primary region to the secondary region. The secondary region is designed to be far enough away from the primary region to avoid being affected by the same disaster. For example, if you have deployed your application in the primary region of UK South, you can configure disaster recovery to the secondary region of UK West. If a disaster occurs in UK South, you can fail over to your application to the UK West to ensure business continuity and minimize downtime. Let's have a look at the types of failures and how you can provide business continuity. To ensure high availability of your apps, you need to consider different levels of redundancy and backups. One option is to use premium storage for your VMs, which can reduce the risk of single point of failure. Another option is use availability sets and availability zones, which can protect your apps from hardware failures and network or power outages within a region. However, these options are not enough to cope with the natural disaster that affects the entire region. For that, you need to have a disaster recovery plan that ensures that data resiliency and minimal RPO and RTO across regions. Moreover, you need to safeguard your data from other threats, such as accidental data loss, data corruption, ransomware, or even rogue admin scenarios. Let's look at the standard BCDR scenarios. Protect in Azure and protect to Azure. One way to protect your workloads in Azure is to use disaster recovery strategy that leverages one or more additional Azure regions as failover locations. Protect to Azure is the strategy for workloads that run on premises. Use Azure as a failover location instead of another self-hosted data center. Let's start with protect in Azure highly business critical scenarios. Active-active is a high availability strategy that involves running workloads in more than one region and allowing them to serve requests from both regions. This is a great solution for achieving high performance and resilience, but it requires careful application design and testing. If one region fails, the other region can automatically take over the entire traffic load without any downtime. To implement active-active, you can use Azure services such as Azure Front Door or Traffic Manager for geo-load balancing between regions, and Azure Load Balancer or Application Gateway for local load balancing within each region. One way to achieve high availability and disaster recovery for application is to use active passive deployment with hot standby and automated failover. This means that the same application is deployed to multiple Azure regions, but only one region is active at any given time. The other regions are passive, meaning that are not serving any traffic, but they are ready to take over in case of a failure. The failover process is automated so that the passive region becomes active as soon as the active region is detected to be unavailable. This can be done using Azure services such as Azure Front Door or Traffic Manager for geo-load balancing and Azure Load Balancer or Application Gateway for local load balancing. Let's continue with Protect in Azure moderately business critical scenarios. One way to achieve high availability and disaster recovery is to use active passive deployment with warm standby. This means that the same workloads are deployed to multiple regions, but only one region is active and serving traffic at a time. The other region is passive and has all the components of the active region, but at a lower capacity. This reduces the cost of the running passive region, and the services can use the lower SQs or have fewer nodes. In case of a failure in the active region, the passive region can be scaled up or out to match the capacity of the active region to take over the traffic. Active passive with cold standby is a deployment strategy that involves replicating the same workloads across multiple regions. but only one region is active at a given time. This strategy is suitable for most applications that can tolerate some downtime in case of a disaster. The inactive region is configured to have the same size and scale as the active region, but the non-essential services are turned off to save costs. When a disaster occurs, the inactive region is turned on and takes over the traffic from the active region after all the services are ready. Azure Site Recovery is a service that allows you to replicate virtual machines across different Azure regions for migration or disaster recovery purposes. You can use Azure Site Recovery to move your workloads to Azure without modifying applications or require complex deployment process. Azure Site Recovery can also help you copy your data tier as long as your databases are not too large or have too many changes. However, Azure Site Recovery and Azure Backup are not able to replicate VMs between regions. You need to use other services such as Azure Migrate or Azure Database Migration Service for cross-region replication. Let's have a look at Azure Backup. One of the features of Azure Backup is cross-region restore, which enables you to copy your backups to another region in case of disaster. The second region is chosen by Microsoft based on geo-replicated storage policy, and you cannot select a different region. This feature only works within the region that are paid by Microsoft. If you want to replicate your virtual machine from one region to another, you can use Azure Site Recovery or Azure Backup. Both services support cross-region applications for VMs, but they have different requirements and limitations. Azure Site Recovery and getting support from ISVs are the standard methods for two Azure protection that achieve the RTO and RPO goals of most organizations. Let's jump into a demo and see Azure Site Recovery in action. For this demo, I have three different resource groups: UK South, UK West, and West Europe. And inside UK South, I have a Linux VM, which is Ubuntu 20.04. Let's go to UK West, and I am going to create a new resource, backup and site recovery. I'll change region to UK West and give a vault name, my recovery vault. And for the vault properties, there is only one setting. The immutable vault can help you protect your backup data by blocking any operations that could lead to loss of recovery points. And also you can lock the immutable vault settings to make it irreversible to prevent any malicious actors from disabling immutability and deleting your backups. For this demo, I will leave it unchecked. And I'll allow public access. Okay, it will take a couple of minutes. One option for setting up Azure Site Recovery is to do it from virtual machine settings. However, I find it more convenient and efficient to use the recovery services vault instead. This way I can manage all my backups and disaster recovery policies in one place. Deployment is complete. Let's navigate the settings. You can see getting started pages for backup and site recovery. You can see protected items and replicated items here. Let's start with enable site recovery and enable replication. Now I'll select my source region and resource group. And before continue, the virtual model I leave as a resource manager, and I'm not going to make disaster recovery between availability zones. I will make the disaster recovery between regions. So I will leave these settings as no. And it found my VM. And the target location is West Europe. And I'll select my existing resource group. And it will create a virtual network and subnet for the failover. Also, you can see other settings, storage availability options, and the capacity reservation. And you can reserve a capacity at the destination location, which is West Europe. The default replication policy is 24-hour retention policy. Also, you can create a new replication policy here. Also, you can change the extension settings, but I will allow Azure Site Recovery to manage it. And you can see the automation account. And everything looks fine. Let's enable replication. One option for setting up Azure Site Recovery is to do it from virtual machine settings. However, I find it more convenient and efficient to use recovery services vault instead. This way I can manage all my backups and disaster recovery policies in one place and have more control over the replication and failover process. Now one of the deployments is complete. Now it's enable replications for my VM. And you can see the site recovery jobs now. Site recovery jobs are tasks that run in the background to perform various operations related to Azure Site Recovery. A site recovery job is created and orchestrates the replication process. And this might take a half an hour or more. So I'll fast forward the video. And the last job is enable replication, which is successful right now. And the replication is completed. Let's go back to resource groups. And I will check my VM. And go to disaster recovery. And replication looks healthy. And there is no configuration issues. I can see the agent version. Agent status is healthy as well. And we can see the same stuff from the recovery vault. I'll go to replicate items. Again, it looks healthy, but it says the synchronization hasn't started yet. And to enable site recovery traffic between the virtual machine and the recovery source vault, I need to add a port 9443 to the firewall rules of the VM. And this port is used for the secure communication between the VM agent and the vault. So I'll go to network settings and create a new inbound port rule. Change the port 9443 and I will give a better name. Okay, let's go back to the services vault. And now we can see it's waiting for the first recovery point. It will take a couple of minutes. And while we are waiting, let's go back to recovery vault and look at some nice graphics here. You can see the replication health and the failover health. We have a warning. And also you can see the infrastructure view here. Let's see what warning is. Okay, it is completed now. And the warning says that we never performed the test failover. Let's do it now. Also, you can see the map. Let's start the test failover. You can see the source, destination, and you can choose a recovery point. And I'm going to select the latest processed and the lowest RTO and select the virtual network. Now it is creating a new virtual machine in the disaster region. Now creating test virtual machine in progress. And I will fast forward the video again. And virtual machine created and started. Let's look at the environment details. And I'll go back to my resource groups, base Europe. And I can see the new created VM. Okay, it looks fine. The only missing part is the public IP address. If you'd like to test your web applications, you can assign a public IP address and make request to that IP to see everything is up and running. So let's go back to recovery vault again. And everything looks fine. No warnings, no errors. And now we can see the status is changed and it says clean up test failover. Let's write a note. Testing is completed. So it will delete the created test resources. Now it is deleting the virtual machine. Thanks to that warning, we are not going to forget any redundant virtual machine after making tests. So I'll fast forward again. Now it's successful. And I would like to check the resource group if it's really deleted. And as you can see, there is no virtual machine. And before I finish, I'd like to talk about the support metrics for Azure Disaster Recovery between Azure regions. Depends on the type of the workload, the replication method, and the recovery point objective and the recovery time objective requirements. The following page summarizes the support metrics for different types of workloads and replication methods. You can find the details on this page, and do not forget to check supported operating system versions. And if you are using Linux, also supported kernel versions are really important. Thank you very much for watching my session today. If you have any questions about Azure Disaster Recovery, please feel free to reach me out on my social media accounts. Many thanks to everyone who made Waste of Tech Calendar happen, and wishing you all a very happy new year.